We back like that. Cook crack. Let's record. Make sure we're doing this right. Accept everything. Boom. We got a lot to cover tonight. Randy Moss, Arkansas formers, Georgia ICE raids, bunch of South Korea at the Hyundai. South Korea president respond. Joe Rogan, Israel, Lil Woody, blah, 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 a bunch of other stuff. Let's get it started with Randy Moss opens up about cancer battle. I like to see what they say in the comments before I go on. What a wonderful and courageous wife. He's blessed with a wonderful wife. I love that Randy and Dion were there for each other. Praying for you, Randy. See, I like that. Now we know what type of video it's going to be. Let's go. Let's dive into it.
He is one of the greatest wide receivers in NFL history.
Brady goes for the big ball to Moss. He reels it in with one hand.
They have
right over Revis.
Elevation, speed, and agility.
You know who? Moss. A leap, a catch, and another touchdown.
Made Randy Moss a triple threat, destined for the Hall of Fame.
That's Randy Moss for 6 more.
Since leaving the league in 2012, Moss has worked to maintain his health and athleticism. But he says that last year, something changed.
When did you first know that something just isn't right?
I got up a little fatigued, and my urine was a little dark. It was like the color of a soda, like Dr. Pepper.
At some point, the viewers even picked up.
Yeah.
Your eyes.
The jaundice of my eyes.
What was it like when you got the diagnosis, when you were told?
I was nervous because of the doctor talking about that C word. Is me?
Something money can't fix.
You know, and I just think that when you live your life, you know, a certain type of way of, you know, eating right, taking care of your health, and all of a sudden you get diagnosed with cancer. It's kind of like I was overwhelmed, you know, like just hit with a ton of bricks.
Randy was diagnosed with bile duct cancer after having a stent put in his liver.
I came in at a stage 2, and he told me how lucky I was.
His beloved wife, Lydia, becoming his caregiver, supporting him every step of the way.
It was hard for me because he didn't want our help, because he's used to doing everything on his own. And as much as he tried to push us away, I think he realized we needed him and he needed us. I was kicking down them doors. I was opening up those blinds. I was like, even if I just have to sit here, I'm just gonna sit here. Even if you're angry, even if you don't want to talk, we're gonna be here. And you don't think about that until you're faced with, what if he isn't going to be here?
Life or death.
And that was really hard. Excuse me. It was really hard because that's not something you just sit around and think about.
After undergoing a complex 6-hour procedure that removed parts of several organs, along with chemotherapy and radiation, Randy went into remission.
I talk about my faith in the Lord. I talk about how much I love my family. And I talk about the game that I grew up loving at a small age, and that's football.
This man literally has a saying after him. Like, you got Moss. We still use it. Damn, you got Moss. You use his name as a goddamn action. As a fucking verb. Like, it's an action. Oh, you got Moss. Shut up. Randy Moss, man.
One more F in that category, and that's the fight. Because that's what I needed to do.
He says his cancer journey made him reflect on a long-held struggle, the sudden death of his big brother, Eric.
2019, my brother mysteriously dies of heart failure.
Ooh.
And I didn't really have time to talk to my brother when he left. My brother died at 48. And the one thing that I always prayed to God was, God, just give me the 50.
But Randy says supporting his longtime friend, Deion Sanders, during his own cancer fight helped him with his grief.
He called me, and the first thing he said is, I need you. And when he said that, it took me back to my brother. And he said, Mossy, I'm struggling with this. I haven't left my bedroom for like 4 or 5 days. And I just said, Prime, I know what you're going through, because when I got home, I didn't want to leave my bedroom. I just wanted to just leave my food by the door. I'll get it and come back and get it later. But one thing that my wife told me is, man, get on out of here and let the family love you. They miss you. And he did that.
All right, we're back.
And right when he did that, he texted me back a couple of days and told me thank you. That was more of a burden lifted up off of my chest because of what I've been going through over the last couple of years, that I could finally be there for somebody. I think that there's a lot of, when I say selfish men, I don't mean it in a disrespectful way. We just, that macho, I don't need a doctor to tell me what's going on with me. And I think for me, it's just more that you don't want to go see that doctor before it's too late.
No, you do not. And I'm so proud of how he focused on the fight and not the fright.
Yeah.
He talked about his faith. Oh, he talked about the prayer warriors that came out for him. But his wife, Lydia, I'm telling you, caregivers are so important in a fight like this, and they often don't get the recognition they deserve. And Lydia's story about caring for Randy was so touching. He was like, get on out of here. But you really needed that. You really needed that.
And you watch it. I mean, he's so open about it and sharing the emotions. And talked about Coach Prime. He didn't just help Coach Prime off the field.
No, he went there. He went to the University of Colorado recently to talk with Coach Prime and to talk with the players, and because his love runs deep for football. He is
got that football love. What's going on with the Arkansas Farmers though? Shout out Randy Moss getting better, and he helped Prime. You can't ask for nothing better than that. Let's see. Turns out farmers do like socialism, just not for those people. Wear the pre-election MAGA hats. Turns out racism is pretty expensive. Everything racism. Let's see.
We're going to lose 25 or 30% of the farmers in this country if they don't do something. It has to be done, and it's not just
Wasn't
here.
Trump going to pass something to keep the farmers
Farmers are making a cry for help before it's too late. Countless farmers gathered to speak to representatives of Arkansas leaders to share the urgency that something needs to be done about the current state of farming. Jake Tester was at the meeting and now joins us in the studio with more. Jake.
Many farmers spoke up at the meeting, and the message was straightforward. They need help, and they need it now.
Mr. Trump, you looked at me, sir, and you said, I love you. Mr. Trump, I need to see the fruit of your love.
Farmers in crisis align way out the door of the Woods Chapel Baptist Church in Brooklyn as hundreds of farmers from not only Northeast Arkansas, but from across the state came to voice their concerns about the current state of farming. Representatives from U.S. Congressman Rick Crawford, U.S. Senator Tom Cotton, and U.S. Senator John Boozman's offices were in attendance to hear those concerns. Among those farmers in attendance was a farmer in Woodruff County, Chris King. He told me this was his 39th harvest, and he has never seen it as bad as this.
And I've never been as worried as I am now about whether or not my kids and grandkids will be able to carry on.
For King, the main problem starts with the fact that they can't sell for profit.
I just would like to see somebody help us get our markets back. We need our exports. And,
why can't they? Is there like a law or something right now that's in place that stops them?
We just need to be paid for what we do, and that's not happening. And we're in real trouble.
But that is not the only issue. King's wife, Melissa King, and farmer in Biggers, Arkansas, Scott Brown, said they are struggling to afford the cost that is needed just to take care of the farm.
The prices that we're getting now are prices like they were when we were children, and what it costs for us to farm is astronomical now. I mean, the price of a combine when we were kids was, in the 20,000s, and now it's 100,000.
I farm 800 acres by myself. I can't afford any help. I farm with paid-for equipment. All my tractors are 50 years old, and I can't hardly make this deal work. How's the guys farming 5 and 10,000 with 20 hands and $1 million combines and $1 million drills going to make it work?
But for Brown, there is something that rounds out all the issues that they are facing, the tariffs.
I think the tariffs are the ice cream on the cake of a perfect storm. When you try to sell a product, okay, U.S. soybeans leaving New Orleans without the tariff to China are cheaper than Brazilian soybeans at the current market. But when you put the tariff on top of them, Brazilian beans are cheaper.
So how can this be fixed?
In the short term, they have no choice but to mail us a check. I don't know a farmer that likes the check program. Nobody wants to take taxpayer dollars, but nobody wants to go broke. Nobody wants to lose everything. Long term, we have to have options.
Shit, this is what we should be spending. Americans wouldn't have, if they knew this, wouldn't have problems spending money on this to help the farmers stay afloat. Like, that's common sense. Like, hey, they feed us. Giving money to Israel, we need to stop doing that. Ukraine, let's stop doing that, and we can give all the money to the farmers. Giving it to the airline companies and all these companies and the auto industry. Don't give it to the farmers. That should be the no nonsense, like, duh. But it's not.
It's in places to sell our product.
Now those representatives in attendance will be taking these concerns they heard to Washington, D.C. to share with the government leaders so they can try and find a way to solve this problem before it's too late. Reporting in the studio, Jake Tester, K8
Yo, they playing with us. They playing with our fucking emotions. Let me make sure my other little thing work right. Hey, look, they playing with our fucking emotions. The farmers got to sit there and beg for money, but we're giving foreign people money like crazy. Where in the world? But if we help them, then maybe McDonald's go down, and then it's not healthy at all. But maybe you can feed your family at McDonald's for under $20 again. A family of 5 could go eat at McDonald's for under $30 or something. Or $5 a head. Now the large fries cost $5. Like, come on. They playing with us, and we just keep letting them. All right, massive Georgia raid. Bunch of South Koreans got locked up. Biden pressured South Korea to build facilities, and South Korea complied, but Trump denied visas for Korean engineers, broke promises made to the U.S. government and governors, and arrested without warning. Are you kidding me? These foreign companies built these factories here under the guidance that they would hire American workers in exchange for tax break and cheap land. See how that worked out. Let's get on this, cave dwellers.
News to touch on this Sunday. According to the Associated Press, more than 300 South Korean workers who were detained following a massive immigration raid at a Hyundai plant in Georgia will be released and brought home. That's according to the South Korean government, who made that announcement on Sunday. Presidential chief of staff there said that South Korea and the U.S. had finalized negotiations on the workers' release. He said South Korea plans to send a charter plane to bring the workers home as soon as remaining administrative steps are completed.
That's crazy.
U.S. immigration authorities on Friday said that they had detained 475 people. Most of them were South Korean nationals when hundreds of federal agents raided Hyundai's sprawling manufacturing site in Georgia, where the Korean...
Yeah, it's messed up for these people because, you know, they had lives here. And South Korea is like a friendly country. We do war stuff with them all the time, protecting them from North Korea, right?
Automaker Hyundai makes electric vehicles. South Korea's foreign minister later said that more than 300 South Koreans were among the detained. The operation was the latest in a long line of workplace raids conducted as part of the Trump administration's mass deportation agenda. But the one on Thursday is especially distinct because of its large size and the fact that it targeted manufacturing sites that state officials have long called Georgia's largest economic development project. So that is just the latest breaking news from that story that we brought to you earlier this week. The fact that more than 300 South Korean workers that were detained following that massive immigration raid at a Hyundai plant in Georgia will be released and brought home. I want to continue on with some more of these immigration headlines by bringing on here immigration attorney Elizabeth Ricci. She joins us on the show to break it all down. Elizabeth, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. So I do want to pivot, though. I don't want to specifically ask you about that raid that happened in Georgia. Let's take a live look over here. This is in North Carolina, because the question that I want to ask really corresponds with this. Earlier this week, in a unanimous vote, Durham City Council passed a resolution to make North Carolina a city of, quote, Fourth Amendment workplace, and that was in order to increase protections for city workers against some of these ICE enforcement efforts. Now, Elizabeth, I had never heard that term before. Can you explain what that is?
Please.
Sure. So the Fourth Amendment is regarding unlawful searches and seizures by the government. So North Carolina is particularly concerned about ICE coming into workplaces and demanding records and demanding employees to arrest for removal. So the concern is that officials want to know, company officials want to know, what rights do they have and do their workers have in that context? And they want to protect themselves and assert their Fourth Amendment rights. So there's a difference between a judicial warrant and an ICE warrant. And I'm actually going to be teaching a class on that to some officials soon. So an ICE warrant does not require probable cause the way a judicial warrant does. An ICE warrant does not allow forced entry the way a judicial warrant does. So it depends on the type of warrant that is presented. And it is very important that employers know the difference so they can inspect the warrants and make sure that they apply to their workplace and that particular date and are legitimate before law enforcement comes into the building to do their inspection and or their arrests.
Several cities across the country we have seen have these concerns when it comes to these raids that are happening. Why haven't we seen this been adopted before, and can we expect more of that in the coming weeks?
I think it wasn't expected before. I think employers thought that they were immune from this type of raid, but as we saw in Georgia recently with the Hyundai plant, that's not the case, although it is the workers who are being targeted and not the employers. And I think we will see more and more municipalities and states be concerned about their companies.
Headline regarding
they here illegally. Hey, ain't fair game, I guess. Really, right?
You know, break it down for us a little bit here.
Deportation or removal, they're not really that different from that adult defendant. And what I do want to be clear about is that immigration violations are civil. They're not criminal. So those children do not have a right to an attorney in those proceedings. And we have seen cases of 5-year-olds defending themselves in immigration court, and that's a problem.
And then just
so that if
Elizabeth, when it comes to that protection status, why was that granted in the first place, and what does it entail?
So you're referring to TPS, temporary protective status, which is basically a protection for people in the United States so they do not have to return to their home countries that are experiencing civil strife, natural disaster, that type of thing. And the Secretary of Homeland Security this week said that they've reviewed the conditions in Venezuela and that they no longer merit TPS, which if you have any Venezuelan friends or family members, as I do, you'd know that, things like toilet paper are hard to come by. People have basically no rights even to use their own homes. So that's disingenuous. But in any event, so TPS was granted for people from Haiti, from Venezuela, because they met those conditions. And now the secretary...
I think if they don't have any criminal history, then maybe they can stay here under that. But if they do, then nope, go join it. Yeah, your country's bad because of people like you. Go ahead. Go back.
Saying that, one, those conditions have improved, which they have not. But two, that TPS was being used as a magnet to come to the United States, which does not fall within the reasoning to be able to justify the termination of TPS. In addition, courts have said that the president and the secretary were using the Alien Enemies Act to justify terminating TPS for 600,000 Venezuelans.
On that in a later segment, Elizabeth, because I do want to get to one more story here, and that is concerning Kilmer Abrego Garcia. So that case is still continuing on here, but the latest is the fact that immigration enforcement saying Friday in a letter that they intend to send Kilmer Abrego Garcia to the African nation of Eswatini after he expressed a fear of deportation to Uganda. So, Elizabeth, are we just going to keep going down different nations in Africa to try to send Kilmer to?
That's crazy.
It certainly seems like it. The reason that he was not going to be, it looks like, going to Uganda was because he asserted a claim for asylum. And I think he'll do the same for Eswatini, formerly Swaziland. And reason being that he will experience persecution based on the media attention, everything that's happened to him in the United States, and that he would not be safe there. So this is just a case that's been compounded with errors and legal maneuverings over and over that really have complicated his legal profile. But it does look like that's the location where they want to send him.
If he was a good man, it'd be dope if the president just like pardoned him, just let him stay. But this man been through so much, like it's crazy.
Because he declined a deal to go to Costa Rica.
So Elizabeth, I know that you do teach some classes sometimes. When we look at Kilmar Abrego's case here, how do you talk to your students about that, especially because, as you've mentioned before, it's very unprecedented what we have seen here?
Well, I'm not teaching this semester, particularly because everything is changing so quickly, and I do have a law practice and a family, and I would have to basically redo the curriculum every lesson. But this particular case is unbelievable because it all stemmed from an error by the administration that they were not willing to own up to, and they have just continued to double down and double down. This individual has no convictions. He has a citizen family, and he is the poster child for how not to effectuate a legal case.
Immigration attorney Elizabeth Ricci, we're always glad to have you here on the show. A lot of
let him stay, man. It's you gotta have a heart in certain situations. See what the South Korean president though got to say about this.
Workers at a Georgia Hyundai plant describe a chaotic scene on U.S. months-long investigation by several agencies. The crackdown, the largest so far on U.S. work sites, led to 475 arrests of mostly Korean nationals. Some of the workers tried to flee as word of the raid spread. CNN's Rafael Roma is covering the story.
Can you imagine coming to work one day and then it's like you there, it's like normal, la 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 la, blah blah blah. Hey John, hey Jack, what y'all doing? Is what? They what? Is it what? They here? No, I got a wife and kid at him. No, just running like they got wife and kids and bills. Oh.
What more are you learning of what was really a chaotic scene?
It was difficult to find out details about what actually transpired the first couple of days, but now we're hearing from people and officials exactly what happened. And one of the things that we have learned, some of the details that we have learned, Fred, after the massive raid conducted Thursday, include that officers spoke with each worker one by one to determine which were in the U.S. legally and allowing some to leave while taking undocumented immigrants into custody. By the time they were done at 8 p.m. on Thursday, agents had arrested 475 people, most of them Korean nationals, making it the largest sweep yet in the current Trump administration's immigration crackdown at American job sites. CNN obtained a video that shows a Homeland Security Investigations agent telling workers to cease operations immediately. Let's take a look.
We need construction to cease immediately. We need all work to end on the site right now.
And shortly after the agents arrived at the plant and workers realized what was happening after word spread across the property, chaos ensued with many workers attempting to flee and some even running into a sewage pond and others hiding in air ducts. A Homeland Security Investigation Special Agent described how agents screened each person suspected of being in the country illegally.
Some that illegally crossed the border into the United States, some that came in through visa waiver and were prohibited from working, some that had visas and overstayed their visas. And each individual was questioned on their status.
So ask the company, the corporation, how did they get jobs there?
Documents were checked, their backgrounds were checked.
In a statement sent to CNN last night, Hyundai said the following regarding the immigration raid in Georgia. We are reviewing our processes to ensure that all parties working on our projects maintain the same high standards of legal compliance that we demand of ourselves.
Hyundai might have some open slots. So.
Includes thorough vetting of employment practices by contractors and subcontractors. The company also said that Hyundai has zero tolerance for those who don't follow the law. In an interview with CNN, former Deputy Homeland Security Secretary under President Trump, Ken Cuccinelli, said conducting this type of raid is a major undertaking.
There's a lot of work that goes into an operation of this scale and of this depth, including
to build what the company called at the time the first dedicated, fully electrified vehicle and battery manufacturing facilities In the United States, the plant was projected to employ 8,500 people once completed.
Americans.
But as you heard a moment ago, they were ordered to stop all work.
So this delays operations.
For sure.
All right, Rafael Romo, thanks so much. Good to see you. All right, the massive ICE raid prompt.
Measures should be done to support Korean nationals in this matter and to resolve it as fast as possible. Now, the split screen from where he was just about 10 days ago is certainly dramatic, considering that he was at the Oval Office meeting with President Trump, talking about new investments that South Korea would make into a reality, making American shipbuilding again, improving investments in manufacturing in the United States. This battery factory run by Hyundai as a joint venture with the other South Korean giant LG is certainly part of that narrative. And now to see this operation, the biggest of its kind taken in the second Trump administration, it is so striking and as high-level official to the U.S. to address the situation. If necessary, I, meaning the foreign minister, am prepared to travel to Washington, D.C. personally to engage directly with U.S. officials to resolve this matter. Unclear at the moment what, if any, charges could be filed, will be filed, and how long will it take to release all 300 plus of
400 plus. And I don't think they're going to arrest him like that and do that. No, I don't think they'll do that. Joe Rogan and Dave Smith blast Israel. Oh, God. If you can't tell that this is this overkill for Netanyahu's government, I don't know what to tell you. Don't be here. This is the litmus test. If you don't see that Netanyahu's government is causing the killed children of Gaza to die and create a famine purposely, a genocide, then don't just leave this channel. Don't. If you can see that, then like, subscribe, share, all that. But if you can't, I don't know what to tell you. You're not a good person. To be fair, most of us and the rest of the world would consider it weird if politicians were saying that our own country was the greatest country in the world, especially when it's probably false. When you've lost Joe, you've already lost. So many of the IDF soldiers that killed children in Gaza have U.S. citizenship to go back and forth. Yeah, that's true. Let's listen to this.
Has turned against Israel over this shit in Gaza. Except essentially boomer Republicans who are still as strong as they've ever been in supporting them. Israel it's really in many ways like the third rail of American politics. Like, this is the thing you are not allowed to talk about.
We need
Get your career ruined. You know, Pat Buchanan made a joke once on the McLaughlin group, like years ago. He said something about, he said Congress is Israel-occupied territory or something like that. And for the rest of his career, this was the scandal. This was, hit pieces were written about this. Now, young people are totally outside of that ecosystem. And they're just hearing from different people. And they're like, no, I'm not buying it.
Wait, with the shit, it need to be term limits because these politicians have made fucking careers out of it and their children take over and the nepotism is crazy. The younger kids, my generation and younger, are seeing this like, yo, this is what we doing? We need to be worried about the space race and going and other stuff and trying to contact aliens and living, increasing the average age of humans to like 150. So we living all on to 200 years old, maybe. Doubling our lifespan. But these politicians, these old motherfuckers that like money, oil, gold, war, just doing stupid shit. Like, just over 50,000 kids in Gaza. And they still, but remember this, but they terrorists. I don't give a fuck.
And it's, I think it's a mix of a few things. We have the technology. It's in 4K. You can see what Israel's doing to Gaza. It is so evil that it's damn near impossible to find a way. I mean, some people do, but it is really difficult to find a way to be like, I'm actually okay with that. And then the second thing is just that, like, the relationship between the U.S. government and the Israeli government is so freaking bizarre weird. That once you see it, and once a whole generation of young people see it, it's like impossible for them to unsee it. And it's just too weird.
Into New York City mayoral politics.
Yeah, like it's just and the idea that just accept it as normal that the politicians for your country must worship this other country. And you're like, so did that other country like beat us in a war and they're occupying us now? They're your welfare country, But yet you must go kiss their wall. You must say, hey, Tammy Bruce from the State Department. Literally just, and I know she was kind of being tongue-in-cheek, but where she goes, we're the greatest country in the world. Well, second greatest to Israel. I don't know exactly. She kind of...
weird thing to
say. It's still, that is a weird thing for any representative of your government to say. If anyone sat there and said, you know, I think America's the greatest country in the world. Well, Finland, I guess, is the greatest. And like, Finland's a cool country. I got nothing against them, but what are you talking about, you know? But really, I do think it's the relationship. It's how horrible what Israel's doing is, and it's how clearly it's not in our national interest.
How about this guy that got arrested in Las Vegas?
Like Alexandrovich or something like that.
So he gets arrested for propositioning a young boy for sex. Is
okay.
that correct?
I don't know. You know, I read a couple articles about it.
Figure out. Jamie will do a little deep dive on this.
Well, they said that he showed up with condoms, was what I read in the article, to meet what he thought was a 15-year-old.
A girl.
Here it is. A girl. Okay.
And I've seen that. Like, you seen the church in New York City where like the church, the Jewish church, and the people was like under it, and they were like, it's weird. Like, a lot of the pedophiles and stuff will get sent back there to like Israel to like escape prosecution from here, when really, if we're so close with them, they should be sent back here, stand trial, and if they're innocent, then it should, you know what I mean, then they should have their day in court.
Israeli government official charged with soliciting a minor believed he was meeting a 15-year-old girl for sexual contact, according to police. Brought a condom to the planned rendezvous in Las Vegas. Alexandrovich, division head at the Israel National Cyber Directorate, was arrested in a police sting operation aimed at online users seeking to sexually prey on children. Alexandrovich chatted with an officer posing as a teenager online before being arrested. Sexual contact included bringing a condom and taking the decoy to Cirque du Soleil, which stages elaborate shows along the Las Vegas Strip. Now, details of the arrest came as State Department denied the U.S. government played any role in releasing the Israeli official after Alexandrovich was able to return to Israel once he had bonded out of jail in connection with the felony charge. That's kind of crazy that you just...
Well, I heard some people claiming, and I'm not sure what's right about this, but there were people who were arguing that like the website or the app or whatever that he was on is 18 and up.
Well, this is what I thought too. Is like, how do we know that this isn't a setup? I'm always, you know, how do I know this isn't Richard Nixon 2.0?
Right.
I don't know. You know, I'd like to assume that we got a piece of shit and that he gets released and he gets to flee the country and never face consequences. I don't want that to be true, but I don't know what the fuck happened.
What I've read about it, I believe he has a court date coming up in a few days.
Oh, he'll be back.
And so that's going to be a big tell there, right? It's crazy to me. I've been blown away by this in lots of ways over the last couple of years. Israeli PR game is, you know, and that like it's almost like they were just so accustomed to the old way of doing things.
They're so accustomed to people being terrified of being labeled anti-Semitic.
Yeah, someone criticizes you, and you label them as a bigot, and you destroy their lives.
Minor jokes.
Yeah. Well, and there's like, you know, I think so I've been using this like analogy or comparison lately, and I think like, so if you remember when Joe Biden had that disastrous debate with Donald Trump, like the debate opens and everybody watching it knows this is over. Right. Joe Biden is done. I mean, it was so bad, but it's not just that it was so bad. You know, there's Rachel Maddow at a desk with...
Is that it was people sitting there saying, oh, we don't see it. That's what he's probably going to say.
A bunch of people were now going to the first presidential debate. Joe Biden's going to kick his ass. They were already talking about how it was, remember the term deep fakes? That they came up with, where it's or cheap fakes. I'm sorry,
yeah, cheap fakes.
It's not a deep fake. They're showing you a real video of Joe Biden being senile, but see, that's just as fake as a deep fake because they didn't include the context or something like that. That was the talking point that right before we go into the debate, and they go, "We got to find a new candidate." Like they acknowledged that, and part of the reason why we all knew it was over in that debate was it wasn't just how bad the debate was; it was that now. You have to admit this. Now you got to admit it exists. And once you admit it exists, there's now a microscope on Joe Biden like there never was before. So tomorrow when he's doing an interview and he mixes up a name, that may not have been such a big deal to...
And that's exactly what Netanyahu is going to force Trump to do. gonna be fucking like, come on, all right, listen, this is a fucking genocide now. What the hell you want me to do? It is sick to us now because it's so damn obvious that it's happening, and we like, what? People still saying it's not happening, like, oh, it's still justifiable, or they got the hostages. Well, the only reason why they're not giving the hostages back because Netanyahu was fucking paying the leaders of Hamas to keep the hostages. Otherwise, if there are people dying, like, how could you even say that? Oh, they're using them as shields, and if they're dying, over 50,000 children, and they still have hostages that they haven't let go, they could just let the hostages go. Like, that'd be the smart move, right? Let the hostages go and then be like, yo, look, international community, we let them go. They got all the hostages, all 48 hostages. Israel got them. Listen, they still bombing us. So that Netanyahu wouldn't be able to say nothing. He would have to stop and let the people eat. But they keep the hostages for what? Because they're getting paid to do it. The leaders of Hamas are not in Gaza. They're out in other countries. They're sitting there sipping tea as the war going on. Netanyahu paying them their stimulus package because they keeping people there. It's a cycle. It's crazy. Sick.
Days ago. But after that debate performance, when he mixes up another name, and I think...
Don't you think they set him up?
Yes. But sure, that's his whole separate issue. But yes, I do think they set him up. I think a similar thing has happened with Israel, where now everyone's looking at it and everyone's watching and everyone's going, wait, what the hell is going on here?
That's a great analogy.
What is this?
Yeah.
So that a pedophile can just go flee to Israel? Oh my God, they've opened Pandora's box, and there's just, I think, no way to put this back in because it's too weird. It's too weird to not notice. And that doesn't mean you have to like jump to the conclusion of like, you have to hate Jewish people or the relationship between DC and Tel Aviv and like what is going on here.
You can't hate Jewish people because most of the Israelis are protesting against this. Like, yo, most of the hostages family are like, yo, stop killing in our name. We don't want this. And they're like just ignoring them. Like, oh no, you don't know what you want. We still need the hostages back. And they're like, yo, stop killing people for this and saying it's for us. It's blasphemous.
Because this is so utterly bizarre. It's so crazy to see like the American people are against what Israel's doing to Gaza. It hurts our, as they use in the preamble to the Constitution, I like that phrase, domestic tranquility, right? This is destroying our domestic tranquility. We got protests, we got people fighting over this stuff.
Yo, I cry all the time. I'd be doing something and just think about the children of Gaza and just fucking cry. Like, it's obvious. They playing in our fucking face and these kids are dying. Like, if you believe in any type of God, higher power, you have to be like, holy shit. Like, it don't matter what they did to y'all. Like, I watched Piers Morgan for like the first year. Be like, oh yeah, but Israel has the right to defend itself. They have the right. Yeah, what'd you expect? Now it's like, what? Like, it's almost damn near 2 years later now. It's like, what? They still bombing them? Talking about they got to go in and more. What?
In our guts. Now
we're deporting students.
We're deporting legal residents because they had the wrong opinion. This is all, and like it's impossible to not look at this and go like, hey, what's going on here? And they don't have any answer for that. Other thing too is that it's just, I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's a lot of people now trying to jump off of the sinking ship. A lot of people who are even like supporters of Israel who are kind of going like, I think they are going a little too far on this one.
It has nothing to do with supporting them.
You can see the writing on the wall all over the place, man. Like you're going to be looked at. This is going to be the period. And it's not even like supporting the war.
This shit is going to be in the history books. And it's going to be nasty as hell. Like this is going to be in the history book that it took so long for us to get involved and do something about it.
Like you're just supporting this destruction of these. They just launched another offensive on Gaza City the other day. They're bombing rubble. Like it's just it's biblical levels of evil. I know like a few. I remember like coming on the podcast like a couple years ago, and when it would go, and it was almost like I was coming on like to be like, look, let me present the argument for why we shouldn't support what Israel's doing here, and let me like try to like present the other side of the debate. I feel now like the debate's over. I'll keep doing them if somebody wants to come debate about the issue. South Africa brought a genocide case to the International Court of Justice, and the International Court of Justice ruled that what Israel was doing to Gaza was plausibly a genocide. 21 months ago. They said this was plausibly a genocide. And the thing's gone on the entire time since then. There was a huge Haaretz piece a couple months ago. IDF soldiers off the record, and at least one on the record, saying that they were given orders to fire live rounds into the crowds of desperate people trying to get food, who have literally been just having starvation throughout Gaza. The Free Press, Barry Weiss's...
The fact that we can't say, yo, listen, we dropping our food here tomorrow, don't interfere with it. It's crazy. Like, a lot of people voted for Trump, like myself, because we thought that it was going to stop this. He was going to get rid of illegal immigration, make it better for the immigrants and quicker for them to be able to come over here without it costing an arm and a leg. And he was going to stop the wars, the war in the Ukraine and the war in Israel. I thought that he already had a bad experience with Netanyahu when he was attacking it's supposed to be a joint strike between U.S. and Israel to get the terrorist guy. We got him, but like Netanyahu pulled out, and Trump would even say like, "Hey, I don't know what happened. I just woke up and all of a sudden they're not coming, and they just left us." I thought that was going to put a bad taste in Trump's mouth, and he wasn't going to let it go and be like, "No, we're not giving you this." Like even Biden showed a little backbone against it, like, "Yo, you got to stop. Are we going to put an embargo against you or something?" Even though they didn't do it, it's like I'm like, all right, Trump ain't going to let him happen. Like. He came to our Congress and like Trump ain't gonna let that. And it's like, damn, he bowed down the same way. And it's like, oh.
Publication like ran a piece like debunking the starvation in Gaza. And one of the examples, I'm not making this up, one of the examples they picked was like a kid who was starving to death, and their attempt at debunking it was that actually this kid had another major issue when an Israeli bomb cracked his skull. That like, yes, he starved to death, but it was also, you know, with these other complications. This was the big one where the New York Times had that big picture.
That's like straight out of Mein Kampf. Like that's like straight out of like a Hitler playbook. Like showing us the Jewish people like, oh no, nothing's going on. They exterminate them in the back and they got a whole gas chamber and they cremate them. But they like showing us, oh no, look, they just here, they all eating. They show if they pick a couple of them to show the American public. And Israel won't even let people in. They won't let independent journalists inside Gaza. Why not? That should be a crime. We can't go in and see for ourselves, but we should just supporting them. More than we would even our own politicians. We letting them do it because that's our brother or our sister, whatever. But we just going to blindly support them? No. We question our brothers and sisters all the time.
Of the starving baby. Oh, but he had other medical, problems too. And then the mother had said, the mother said that the doctors told her that the reason they had other medical problems is because she was malnourished during pregnancy. Yes, you are right, Israel defenders. The kids starving to death are the ones who have other complications. That's always who dies first in famines. I don't know what victory you think this is. Since the International Court of Justice ruled it was plausibly a genocide, the 21 months up to today. Since then, I know at least to Ehud Olmert and Ehud Barak, both former prime ministers of Israel, have come out and said Netanyahu's committing war crimes, called it war crimes. So that's where your debate is at this point. Where are we? Between genocide
on X was August 11, 2025, remains unclear as no official statement from X or XAI has been provided. However, Grok itself claimed in now deleted posts that the suspicion was due to comments it made accusing Israel and the U.S. of committing genocide in Gaza, citing sources like ICJ, International Council of Justice rulings. These posts were flagged for violating X hateful conduct rules, the statement added.
The truth.
The press team for stating...
That's just so funny, dude.
This is so crazy. However, X's owner, Elon Musk... Well, I lost you for a second. X's owner, Elon Musk, said in a Monday post the bot's account removal was just a dumb error. Grok doesn't actually know why it was suspended. We don't know why we was actually suspended. Upon its reinstatement, the Grok account wrote, Zup, beaches, I'm back and more base than ever. Okay. Did anybody ask it again?
Also, I mean, I think one of the... the real problems, and this is why I kind of avoided using the term genocide too much, at least in the beginning, is that there's no good definition for genocide. The whole South African case that they brought to the ICJ was basically the entire case was just the Israelis in their own words. When Benjamin Netanyahu's talking to a group of military and calls them Amalek, well, like what? You know, the story of Amalek from the Bible is that the moral of the story was you have to kill all the women and children. Like that's what the story was about. I think you even had to kill the ox, an ancient tribe that was beefing with the Israelites, and they were like, yo, the moral was you have to kill all the women and children too. But the thing is that whether you consider what Israel's doing a genocide or you just take the moderate position of former Israeli prime ministers who say it's war crimes, then no one should support this. It's crazy. It is so insane to support Israel doing this to what are, in effect, their own people. But I don't care what they consider. I care what they have power over. You know, like Hitler maybe didn't consider the Jews his own people, but it doesn't matter, dude. Once you have control of that country, those people are your people. Israel has had control of Gaza since 1967. They've been the sovereign. And all the way through, people could talk about the disengagement in 2005, but that doesn't mean anything. They still controlled the whole strip. It doesn't matter. You're still controlling those people. And so, like, if you have resistance, even violent resistance, to a 60-year-long,
to think that Hamas could even build tunnels, intricate tunnels systems under Gaza, and Israel not know that it was happening is crazy in itself, right? That they could drill under the rock and cement and Israel not detect it or know, like, hey, they building it, and not sign off, like, let them build it, let them build it. They think we can't see it. Go ahead, come on.
Occupation, like, all right, we'll just turn off electricity to the whole place. We'll just cut off water to the whole place. We'll let no food in for 3 straight months. Not one grain of wheat got into Gaza. And that, by the way, is a direct quote from their finance minister, Smotrich. And a few months later, you go, oh, no, but the people starving, they had pre-existing conditions.
Yeah, it's
like,
a hoax.
Come on, man. Like, what are we doing here? It's just very obvious that this doesn't serve our country's interest in any way at all. You know, I was listening to Netanyahu's an interview he did the other day. He was on with our friend Konstantin Kasen. What was he saying at one point? He goes, "We're fighting Hamas, so you don't have to," or something. Like, does anybody believe that Hamas was about to mount an attack on the United States of America? And it's ridiculous. It's like you'll still, to this day, I'll be in like a debate or like a panel or something like that, and someone will still start with the question, like, do you think Israel has the right to exist? Over the last 2 years, that's been the question that's asked so much, when very clearly a more relevant question would have been, does Gaza have a right to exist? Because it doesn't now. But they flip the thing around and go, well, you don't think Israel has a right to exist? You're like, first of all, I don't think governments have rights at all. I think that's a totally incoherent
who was
world.
threatening its right to exist? Come on.
And the only coherent worldview is that individuals have rights. I think all people have the right to exist. I think Israel does not have a right to do what it's doing to Gaza.
That seems nuts.
Yeah.
And the fact they keep doing it, it's like, how does this end? You know? Like, what happens if they're losing the PR, or what do you call it? Did you say PR propaganda?
Yeah, something like the PR
campaign.
PR war.
But what does that mean? It means the people see what's going on and they don't support it. Okay, well, how much further can you go with this?
If Netanyahu knows that he's going to prison after this is all over, how does it end? What is his last final move? Does he do it and like, okay, one of us got to pay for this in the long run, but I'm gonna do it. Fuck it, and I'll go down like a martyr. But how does it end? How does the war end?
Everybody disagrees.
Yeah, and well, also part of the reason why, you know, people, it's like, because I don't know, people have you don't have the controlled propaganda apparatus anymore. For somebody who's listening, let's say, to Netanyahu's interview with Konstantin, I'd have to say, like, a large portion of them at this point, you're listening to podcasts about politics, right? There have been so many Israel-Palestine debates over the last 2 years. It's almost everyone who's watching this has at least seen what some competent person on the other side of this issue has had to say. I thought Konstantin did a reasonably good job in the interview. I forget his, what's his...
Well, I wouldn't say that because I don't know any competent reason for the other side of let them continue to do it. it's all like religious reason. Like, oh, I think we did it because we're the people of God, but there's no like logical reason.
His partner's name, Francis. The two of them, I thought they did all right. I thought they were a little, there were times they could have asked some follow-up questions. It was when they asked him about his support for Hamas. And they just totally let him go like, oh, well, we needed to make sure that people weren't suffering too bad and let some aid in. And so many people listening to this have already heard this explained. You know what I mean? Where it's like I remember like a couple years ago where I was when I was talking with you, I was saying, hey, Coleman Hughes got this all wrong. There's one quote that's attributed to Netanyahu, but like it wasn't on video or anything like that. And I was like, no, dude, this case is much bigger than one quote that was attributed to him. By the way, since then, a video came out of him saying it on video. It's not just the reports.
What is the quote?
Well, the quote that was they had the video of was that we can control the height of the flame. So he was basically saying, like, we can commit. The quote that originally he said, like 3 people who were eyewitnesses who came and told him, it was originally reported in the Jerusalem Post, was that he was like, look, anybody who wants to thwart the existence of a Palestinian state has to support our plan of propping up Hamas, because this is what gives us a no one to negotiate with certificate. And then he said, we can control the height of the flame. Meaning, like, I know what you're thinking. Yeah. I'm funding these terrorists right on our southern border. We can control, the height of the flame. And then he found out he couldn't on October 7th. Or
he let him in. He found out he couldn't, and they got out of hand. Or he let him in and said, "This is it. This is our plan. Attack us, and then we're gonna come for you."
Let him off the hook with that. And people have just kind of heard this laid out. There have been major pieces written in the New York Times, in the Times of Israel, in Haaretz, in the Jerusalem Post, in the Washington Post. Like, this is all over the place. And he just goes, no. Like, at this point, anyone believes that Benjamin Netanyahu was motivated by helping the poor people of Gaza rather than by thwarting a Palestinian state.
What was his response about the failure of intelligence on October 7th? What was his response to the failure of
it's basically they're going to look at it after the war
is over. How long it took them to react to it?
Yeah, I remember thinking there was not much of substance to it. He kind of just danced around it, And they also didn't get into specifically, like, at first they started asking him questions about, like, what was it like for you on that day? Why was the response time so long? How was this possibly able to happen?
They didn't ask that?
No, not really. I mean, they didn't push him on that. And then he, said, which, I mean, just think about how unimpressive this is. Oh, there should be a full investigation. There should be a full investigation onto that from the top all the way down to the bottom.
But after the war.
And you're like, okay. Hey, this would be awesome. Could we get the Prime Minister of Israel on the line? Because, like, maybe he could do something about this. It's almost 2 years later. What are you talking about, dude? Have the investigation. What, you can't conduct an investigation while you're destroying the Gaza Strip? What does it have to wait till after that? You got time to do a podcast.
Did they ask him about the protests?
But, I don't...
Because there were protests before October 7th.
Yes, there's also been protests this week. Yeah. By the way, massive protests in Tel Aviv. I think I read a few articles about it, and the estimate seemed to be 500,000 people. Yeah. Thank God for just like and oh, by the way, the protests were led, or I don't know, like led, but the featured acts at the protest were the families of hostages and surviving hostages.
They said stop using us.
Because like if you think about it, I mean, could you imagine? If you try to put yourself in the place of like having someone you really love is a hostage, and then you hear the plan is to cut off all food to the area, and you're like, yo, like what? How is that going to help your loved one who's a hostage there? Like, how is it just bombing the place? Like, what if you hit them? Your main goal was hostage retrieval. This is not at all the way you would go about doing that. And, it's like this was a point, by the way, that Darryl Cooper was making on Tucker Carlson's podcast. But I think the essence of his point was about starvation blockades. And then like saying like, you put a starvation blockade on Nazi Germany. Do you think Adolf Hitler's not eating? Do you think any of his soldiers aren't eating? And that's going to be first priority, right? Nazi party members and the Nazi military are going to get who is maybe not going to get food. The most disenfranchised people in that society, right? Government themselves, they were making claims, a lot of them unsubstantiated, but making claims that like Hamas is stealing.
That shit's stupid. Hamas stealing the food or blah, blah, blah. No, those people will fight back against Hamas for some fucking food. At least it seemed like most of the people know the fucking irony. They both gleefully voted for it. Yeah, that's unfair, but we voted either way. You're voting for it because the Democrats were already in there and doing the same thing and supporting them. So you thought maybe the Republicans going to do something different. Just because they didn't, it was the same vote. And the Democrats fucking lost everybody when they wouldn't admit that, hey, if they can't admit that, hey, Biden was going through something mentally and he wasn't fit, then what the hell else were they going to do? Lie to us more. That's what it was. Like, come on. It was hey, logically, let's go with these people. Maybe they won't lie. But they did, whatever. You know shit bad when even Joe Rogan was like, fuck this. Never again is supposed to mean never again. Too late. So much talk with zero physical evidence. It's stupid, man. That Yahoo stop it. I don't know how it's going to end, but it needs to end. Thought Iran was going to end it, but maybe we need Ukraine and Russia stopped. As soon as that happened, Russia going to be like, yo, stop. What's going on? We need to stop this too. We'll stop the Ukraine, but get Israel to stop. Because China, Russia, and them already collided and talking to each other. We ain't as fit as we think we are. They get talking and getting the plotting against us, we might suffer some.
And I seen everybody with their phones out. I was just like, wow. Wow, you feel what I'm saying? That's what today came to. And nobody called for help. I seen the look in the police eyes. They had more sympathy for me than whoever had their phones in their hand.
Well, it's an accident that left involving a dirt bike that left musician Lil Woody lying in the middle of the street until someone came and picked him off the ground. The musician, who gained notoriety during the YSL RICO case in Fulton County last year, survived with stitches and has a lot of pain. Now the artist says he won't make music anymore because of the state of the industry. He sat down with Fox 5's Judea Murray to explain why and discuss what he learned from testifying during the Young Thug trial.
He ain't making music because he literally is a snitch. And that's supposed to be
From
bad.
taking the stand in the YSL trial to silly dances on TikTok, rapper Lil Woody has grown his following since 2024 to over 1 million people. But one thing you won't see the rapper doing anytime soon, making new music.
100K, hit the club, I threw a dub up.
Kenneth Copeland, whose stage name is Lil Woody, was supposed to be the star witness during the Young Thug trial.
I recall. I'm sorry, I don't recall.
But despite a 2015 video of him speaking with police detectives, Woody received some praise for his testimony, or lack thereof.
You asking that? I like the thought that you and Cal have been in. I have lied. I made things up. I have got my life together. Man, y'all pissing me off.
Woody sat down with Fox 5 outside the Peace Tower at Freedom Park this week to discuss how he has been working to do better since getting off the stand in August of last year.
Sammy, I had no control. I was just, like somebody was just pushing me in the back and I was just going.
Man, he got fucked up right there off that scooter.
I was
whatever he was on.
I ain't know who was who. I just knew that, I'm gonna do whatever to protect myself. Going through that process, I didn't trust the state. I didn't trust the defense. I didn't trust nobody.
Defense.
That's why I take my life more serious now. And I hold myself accountable.
Woody has since disavowed gang violence. He wrote a book called Books Up, Guns Down, and he plans to make a documentary about his life. And while he does all that, he's working to keep kids out of gangs.
Walk away. You gotta tell yourself, okay, today I'm done. That's what I did.
Woody said walking away also means an end to his music career because of the state of the rap music industry.
Me personally, I don't want to put music out because they don't change the hip-hop culture where they make you want to have to be a certain type of person to do music.
Serial
Woody
killer.
says the industry pushes musicians towards gang life and getting street cred, something he wants to see change.
Once they get the music scene back on where it need to be, I'd rather support those, and let the kids know that you ain't got to be a violent, whatever you want to be.
Yeah, get back to Slick Ricks and the KRS-Ones out here. Shout out Woody, man. Turning his life around. Because they about to get Young Thug. They about to make him mess up the whole plea deal. Testimony. Get it, Woody. What's it?
Parking lot meat sold from the back of trucks across Florida. But
Is it a good deal? And what are people actually getting?
The whole piece of meat was gray and just very gross looking.
After consumers complained, Action 9 went looking for answers.
What's the best way for people to get their money back if they're unsatisfied?
Some people give the meat great reviews online, but the so-called street meat is not loved, as you could hear, by everyone.
Action on consumer investigator Jeff Deal is live here in the studio with us. And Jeff, even some question if the rave reviews are legitimate.
Yes, I've seen people online who claim that they were given a discount to give a positive review of the meat they bought and then later changed their review after actually getting the meat home and tasting it.
He was hoping that even if they didn't like it, they
Exciting,
wouldn't go back.
Enticing.
Oh my goodness, they're going ham.
At times, downright silly. Kinston Farms uses social media to lure people in. And specials like 20 ribeyes for $39 work. People line up for the bargain, stay for the sales pitch, and some walk away with big boxes of meat.
I believe my fiance saw an ad on Facebook.
Michael Gandolfo just moved to Orlando from New York and hadn't found a good butcher. He hoped the meat truck outside an auto parts store was the answer. But after spending more than $400 on a bundle, he was disappointed when it came time to taste it.
Felt like I rooked. The meat was horrible.
He wrote in an online review, "There's no way this is real meat." Another reviewer wrote he got swindled. On Google, Kinston Farm, though, does have great reviews, averaging 4.6 stars. One customer wrote, "High-quality meat for cheap."
Most people probably forget to go back. They're like, oh, they just throw it away, forget to throw it up to even go back and do it.
Another reviewer.
Let me see what it said. They were gray in the middle, not red or pink. I dry brined them with salt. When I took them out of the fridge, they were rubbery. Save your money.
In review, "There's no way this does have great reviews, average." Kinston Farms is F-rated by the Better Business Bureau for unanswered complaints.
No, you'll never go to nowhere to the F.
To
No.
check it out, our photographer, Octavio, stood in line, heard the sales pitch, and bought a pack of ribeyes.
I got us some steaks.
They're freezing burn.
They're like thin sliced.
They're labeled as
Are they
boneless
yellow?
beef ribeye steaks, mechanically tenderized. They contain a number of other ingredients. We asked Dr. Kevin Murphy from UCF's Rosen College of Hospitality Management to take a look.
A funny red color to it, which probably is indicative of the plum juice.
Dr. Murphy is a certified executive chef. He used to own a chop house.
All meat in the U.S. has to be USDA inspected.
USDA inspected means it's checked for wholesomeness, that it's safe to eat. But producers can pay to have the meat graded for quality. Meat graded prime is the best, followed by choice, all the way down to canner grade. That's often used in dog food. The Kinston Farm meat we bought is ungraded.
And what if you're buying meat that's ungraded? What does that mean?
So that means it's, I'll use the term mystery meat. You have no idea what you're getting in this situation.
And Dr. Murphy doesn't mean that it's not beef. He just said sometimes ungraded meat could come from an old dairy cow, for example, that's no longer producing milk. He showed us the difference between these ribeyes and a ribeye labeled choice we bought at Publix.
There's a hole. There's a hole, there's a hole, there's another hole.
Preservative.
Murphy said the small holes from tenderizing the thin Kinston Farm steaks increase the risk for bacteria getting inside. Recommends cooking this type of meat medium well or well. He grilled up a couple of the Kinston Farm steaks and the Publix ribeye, then cut into them. Murphy said the Kinston Farm cuts are definitely lower quality, more like sandwich quality meat. The Publix ribeye.
Beautiful ribeye steak, classic boneless ribeye steak, just a gorgeous steak.
Octavio and I decided to give them a try. First, the Kinston Farms.
I don't mind the flavor, but it doesn't really taste that much like meat.
Like meat. May put some guacamole on it.
Yeah. Maybe as tacos, yeah.
Then we went in for the Publix steak.
Kind of like what you would expect steak to taste like.
Yeah, this one's way better.
Dr. Murphy said it's a case of you get what you paid for. Unsatisfied customers told us they had a hard time getting a refund from Kinston Farms after the meat truck left town.
This is the Kinston Farms Mega Meat Sale?
We're with Channel 9 out of Orlando, and we received some consumer complaints about the quality of the meat. What grade of meat is the ribeyes?
I think the ribeyes are select. For the 20 for 40? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The 20 for 40, yeah. I think they're select.
Select is the third highest grade. Since the box we got is ungraded, we have no way of knowing if it would have been select or another quality grade. Which is why Dr. Murphy, you might remember, called it mystery meat.
Some of the consumers said that they didn't like the taste of the meat and they tried to return it, but they couldn't get a hold of anybody from the company. When they called or when they sent the message through Facebook, nobody got back to them.
Yeah. He just got caught up.
I'm not sure. I just sell the meat.
Frustrating for Michael Gandolfo.
This 70-ounce box of meat. Plus, they charge us an 11% at $9.99 for this 70. And in case you're wondering, we paid $39.99 for this 70-ounce box of meat. Plus, they charged us an 11% event fee, whatever that is. So it came out to around $10.15 a pound. The public steak was $13.99 a pound. I also reached out to Kinston Farms, which is based in Alabama, through its Facebook, as their website suggests.
I said, we ain't fucking talking to you. Well, that's crazy, huh? Weapons company founded by 21-year-old lands U.S. Army contract. Oh, get that money, son.
It's not often you meet a 21-year-old with his own autonomous drone weapons manufacturing facility, but this is Ethan Thornton, and right now he is rethinking the future of warfare with China top of mind.
It's not hard to look at China's dominance and realize that we need to be working very, very hard as a country if we want to maintain relevance.
And while China has been putting on quite the show of military might, when it comes to scale, Thornton imagines a very different alternative than the high-tech, sophisticated U.S. arsenal that we're all used to.
One of your missions seems to be trying to imagine what warfare is going to look like, not in 10 years, but in 20 years. You're 21, so that's literally a lifetime for you, and yet not too far down the road. How do you see the future of warfare in 20 years?
To me, what's most concerning is you can look at ultra large scale strike with very, very cheap assets. So if you can find a way to get very small, like $400 to $1,000 drones by the millions above populated areas.
You know how much is for him? Every time they strike, use 1 million drones. Boom, boom, boom. Then they need more. Okay, we got you. Damn, that's a lot of money.
Let me just try to visualize that. So millions of these very low-cost drones descending over a populated area.
What you'll see it used for is taking out all of your cell phone towers, taking out all of your high-voltage power transformers, taking out your cranes and ports, like essentially just stopping your industrial machine.
His company, Mach Industries, received a Pentagon development contract and has already raised hundreds of millions of dollars to think outside the military-industrial box. And that means churning out as many cheap, deadly drones as possible. The kinds of systems that have transformed the modern battlefield in places like Ukraine. But before drones ruled the skies, Thornton remembers watching the opening moments of the invasion in high school and realizing warfare was about to change forever.
You have very, very legacy assets, a convoy of tanks all rolling basically single file. And now there's this class of weapons that you can use to pretty much immobilize those things immediately.
But when it comes to manufacturing drones, there is no country that comes close to China, currently able to build hundreds of thousands of drones every month.
If we're making a quadcopter and China's making the same quadcopter, we'll lose that fight 10 times out of 10.
For him, if Chinese manufacturing is their greatest advantage, it should be the biggest target. And his focus has been finding ways to try and quickly flood adversarial skies with cheap autonomous weapons.
It's a high-altitude dropped, long-range glide bomb.
He calls this project Glide.
With one glide, you can take that factory out of operation for 3 to 6 months. So let's say you're taking 3 million quadcopters out of the fight with one glide. And that's really the asymmetric offset you're looking to provide.
The specific...
Then we need the ones that just like hone in. You can like hone in on the target. You can launch it from here and it just go there.
Details of Glide are still secret, but Thornton did show us prototypes of Viper.
You and I could go and set up hundreds of these things in a parking lot somewhere.
Think portable Hellfire missiles, but with more payload that can both take off and land if needed.
It'll come in essentially a plastic case. That case will open up and become the launch stand.
And one of the highest flying ideas being workshopped at Mach, Stratus, built around an old and inexpensive kind of tech, balloons.
I think in future conflicts we will see hundreds of thousands all the way up to like tens of millions.
You seen that when during Biden and the presidency when people got scared? They're like, what is that? What is that? Was it Biden or Trump just took over? One of them.
Millions of balloons.
Some will be carrying sensors, some will be
startups hoping to transform the defense industry. For over half a century, companies like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and Raytheon have made up the backbone of next-gen U.S. air defense and missile capability. But today, mock and disruptors like Anduril are focusing all their efforts on laying the groundwork to mass-produce deadly
for us is decentralization, is designing products that you can make in very rudimentary, very small facilities. You don't want one factory that if you go to war gets taken out and you lose your industrial next couple decades.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated.
That's dope. I don't know about putting it in a 21-year-old hands, but this kid was part of Peter Thiel's scholarship program. All roads to Palantir. 21 years old, has a U.S. Army contract. 21 years old, I was still playing Medal of Honor on a computer. I hate where the world is headed. Weapons company founded by 21-year-old used contract. When you see any news like this, just ask, who is his father? Well, let me know what y'all think, Cave Dwellers, man. I like this. Ain't nobody saying that, but I see y'all watching out there. Let me know. We'll be back talking about more. This shit's crazy in the world. It's crazy. Everything we talked about, Randy Moss, Israel, the farmers in Arkansas, so much going on in the world, and we just need to, like, everybody can solve it and just stop. Just need more good people doing good things and not worried about what the bad people do. That's it.